Hello guys, what's up? Lalapolalaa is here. Today I'm gonna show you guys how to implement session-based authentication. Yeah, we are going to back to the basic. Most of the system out there are basically they implement session-based authentication rather than using a token-based authentication, which I already shared with you guys how to implement them last week. So today video I'm gonna show you guys how to implement the basic uh, authentication where most or all majority of the developers use for their system. So anyway, like always, the project, if you want to see the final version of the project, you can always go to my GitHub repo, which gonna be on my GitHub profile, Lalapolalaa Newb. You can find it uh, under simple session auth, which in this project specifically I'm going to show you guys how to implement session-based authentication and how to go around it, and basically everything about session-based authentication using Node.js. As always, we are going to use Node.js, but for this particular project right here, now I'm just going to use Node.js, and I'm not going to use any templating, front-end templating like EJS, not yet, but maybe next week, when I'm going to show you guys how to basically add another more layer of security. By then I'm going to use EJS. But anyhow, let's continue on today's topic or task. You can go to my YouTube description below. You can find this link on my GitHub repository of this project folder. But anyhow, let's start coding. Okay, like always, just git repo the project folder into any folder that you want in your system. Doesn't matter where actually, basically. So the first thing that you need to do, or basically what you're gonna have, is something like this, right? You can place uh, the folder anywhere you like, and you're gonna have something like this. You're gonna have final, and also readme. And next, what you're gonna need to do is open your choice of code editor. Me right now, I'm using Visual Code Studio. I've been using it for a lot of time. You can open your choice of code editor. If you use Sublime, and go and open Sublime or any other code editor that you like, of your choice. Doesn't matter, uh, any any kind of it. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a file, a starter file. I can spell it right. Okay, I create a starter file, starter not file folder. And before we begin, why don't we open the readme.md first? So inside this readme.md, or you can read through all this if you want, but we're going to go straight on the the topic of the day, step-by-step guides on how to implement this uh, session-based authentication. So the first thing that we're going to do, like always, I'm always gonna go in my tutorial, basically sharing session of how to implement any kind of system or project application in your system. I'm always gonna do this step-by-step guide. So we're going to basically go through all of this in our session of coding for today. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up our index.js, like obviously, and set up our DB, create our database and collection, and also create our data scheme. Uh, then so we're going to set up our session. We're going to set up our authentication route, create a register post route. Also, we're going to create a validation handler, or maybe for now, I don't think that we're going to handle this validation handler for now. Just for now, this one I'm gonna show on the next video, which gonna be up next week regarding the validation part. This one we're going to skip. Why don't we just leave it? We just leave it. And next, we're going to create login, get, and post route. And also, we're going to create logout post route. We're going to set up home routes or home get routes. And we're also going to create add time post route. This one is just to show you guys. I'm gonna explain it why while we going we after we in the middle of going through this session. Next, we're going to set our verification. We're going to create a function to handle login user and also a function that going to handle guest or basically a logout user. And the last one, we're going to create a function that handle post logout. But anyway, this is all the steps right now, excluding this validation handle, which I'm going to address this next week. So you guys can go. Basically, you guys can wait for this session where I'm going to show you guys how to handle validation. But right now, all except this, we are going to code for today's session. So why don't we start doing our stuff over here. So we already create our folder. So why don't we go inside our folder, cd starter. The first thing that we're going to do is npm init, like always, and package name. You can put anything that you want. Author, just put your name if you want it. No license, don't have one. Okay, yes. And then package.json over here. The required packages will be going to do npm install of bcrypt. Last time we also used bcrypt for hashing our password, and we're going to install .env for our process environment, and our express session for our session handler. We're going to use express session, if I can spell it right. Express session and mongoose for our database. I think that's all for the system packages. bcrypt.js.env express session, also mongoose. Yep. Click enter and wait for the installation to finish. And we also gonna have one install. We're gonna have one dev dependency packages which gonna be not mount. Okay, install that one too. Just to make it easier for us, not to every time we need to refresh or basically rerun our system, right? So that's why we use node. The next thing that we're going to use is not use. Basically, we're going to create a command to run our node mon. By the way, not going to run our index.js. This is our production, and this one is our for our development. So we're going to use dev, and we're going to use nodemon index.js. Hit save. That's all. Next thing that we're going to create is if we go to our README, we're going to need to set up our index.js. So inside our starter folder, we're going to create a new file, which going to name it as index.js. And then, like always, I'm going to do this dependencies. We're going to have dependencies. I can spell it right. We also gonna have global, if you can spell it right, global middlewares. We're gonna have route middleware. Last thing what we're gonna have is database connection and server startup. Yep. Go back up. Our first dependency that we're going to import is our express. Next gonna be our session handler. And if I can spell it right. And next gonna be our .env. Last if our mongoose. So for our express, constant express are required. Gonna be our express, and then also our app gonna be express, just like that. And our session is gonna be our constant session to require express session. Our .env constant .env equal to require .env, and we need to run this .env the config. And our mongoose for now, the last one, mongoose equal to require mongoose. For our global middleware, since we don't use any front-end templating or basically any JavaScript templating for now, we're going to go straight for our JSON body parser. Our JSON body parser is going to be two of them. One which going to handle our we're going to use our express.json. This one going to basically handle any fetch call or basically any sending or receiving of JSON. And then this one is for handling form URL encoded and standard. I'm going to set it to false. Okay, routes middleware, we're going to have two of them. There'll be our auth routes and also our home route, where for now we're going to skip the first. Next is our mongoose or Mongodb connection. I'm going to use our mongoose connect. Okay, call our process.env.ab_connect, which we will create this later on. And this one is just for handling the application warning. But I'm going to show you guys why I put this one line after we start the basically the server. And we also have then, which I'm going to do it down here. Then inside of here, we're going to run a arrow function, which first I'm going to console log. If it's successful, then I'm going to console log successfully connected to DB, something like that. And I'm gonna go and application dot listen, same thing, process dot env dot port. We're gonna use port 3000, and we're also going to console the log. Server is up and running at port wait, since we're going to call it, then we should use backticks and to call our process .env .pod exclamation mark. And if it's fail, we're just going to display error. Console .log error, just like that. So next thing that we need to do is start our server and run dev. Since we created domains, so we're going to npm dev. Okay, we got an error. Note to open URL undefined string Mongodb Connect. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Because we didn't yet set up our Mongodb Connection, right? So the next thing that we need to do is to create our database. So let me first check our database first. Let me open this one. I'm going to use cloud MongoDB Atlas. You can create your account on this MongoDB account Atlas. Create your first cluster, and then you can create your database and also collection. I already have one for the final version of the system, but nevertheless, I'm going to create one just to show you how to do it. So we're going to create a database and call it as Session-auth2, and also our collection Session-auth2. Create one. Okay, this is our Session-auth2. And then the next thing that we're going to do is go back to our cluster, then click on connect your application, copy this string over here, go back to our collection, and go back to our Session-auth2, and then go back to our code, create a new file under starter folder. We call it as .env, and then inside here we're going to create our pod 3000, also our db connect, which is going to be the link that the string that we copied earlier. Our database name is, if we go back, is Session-auth. So Session SESS auth2, and this is your cluster name. This should be your password, and also this should be your username. So just replace it with your password. Okay, and why don't we create? Not now. I don't think it's all for now. Go back to our index.js, and it should be working right now. Just click save, and voila, it's working. Successfully connected to our DB, and also server is up and running for 3000. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to go back to our README. We already set up our index.js, and then we need to set up our DB, which we need to create database calculation. Already done that. We need to create our data scheme, which we didn't yet do. So next thing, inside our starter folder, create a new folder. Then we're going to name it as models. Inside our model, we're going to create a new file, which we're going to name it as capital ALL all.js. So inside of here, what we're going to do is going to create a First, we need to import some dependencies, which going to be just one dependencies. Some mongoose. So constant mongoose equal to require mongoose, and next we're going to have our data schema, and last we're going to export our data scheme export. So our data scheme going to be very simple. We're going to name it as all schema equal to new mongoose dot schema, where inside of here we're going to we're going to create users credential. So credential should be just lowercase credential, which going to contain users email and also uses the user password. So this is going to be email with the type going to be string, and also this one should be required equal to true. We're going to do a minimum of 6. Same thing we're going to apply to our user password. Name is password, and also don't forget to put comma over here. Next, we're going to use our users information. This is going to be profiles. So inside here, we're going to have just one, basically the user's name. The name going to be users first name, and also their users last name. I think I'm going to copy this email over here. Copy, and I forgot to put a comma over here. So for the user first name, put comma, and it should be first name. Copy again. Copy. Why don't I just put minimum of 4, and this one should be 4 also. Last name. Last thing that we need to do is we're going to export our data scheme to be used across the system. Name as all, and the name of the scheme is all scheme. It's safe. So go back to our README, and we managed to create our data scheme. Next, we're going to set up our session. Okay. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we need to set our session. But yeah, why don't we go start our basically set our session. Go back to your index.js, and first, why don't we, since we are using Express session right now, so the only thing that we need to copy inside of here is this part, the middleware of handling the session. So we're going to copy this part, copy app.use, and then that's going to be under our global middleware. Why don't we name it session handler. Put it down there, and inside of here I'm basically going to not gonna do this inside of here. I'm gonna do that somewhere else, but for now I'm gonna name it session uh, options for now. Yeah, it's gonna give you error, but it's not for long. Okay, and next thing that you need to do is go to our starter folder, create new folder. Going to name this folder as config folder. So inside this config folder, we're going to create a file name index.js, and also we're going to create one more new file name session.js. Okay, so inside our session.js, the first thing, like always, we're gonna do. Always we're gonna start with commenting what we're going to do, right? So we're going to basically create a default environment, vars, basically variables. So the first one we're going to create, I'm gonna leave it blank for now, but instead uh, I'm gonna create constant uh, module.export. So inside of here, we're gonna have our session option that we just did in our index.js, right? This session option, which basically we're going to export this session option that going to contain uh going to contain this all. Just copy this part, paste it down there, and then the first thing that we need, this is what I'm going to explain to you guys. But anyhow, for now, just delete that. This is I'm just going to show you guys where this code is supposed to go. So it's supposed to go in here. But anyway, we're going to set our session name. All these you can follow this through all the documentation that you able to find if you search for express session. So inside of here, what you're going need to set your cookie, and you need to set your cookie expires when, whether it's HTTP only, whether it's the max age, path, same size, secure, and gen ID, name, the session name, whether you want to allow resave or not, rolling, and also save uninitialized. This last one is secret and also store. But for today, we're going to use the default one. We're going to use a memory store instead of using the session store other than memory store, which you able to use uh, MongoDB as your choice of session store, or the popular one if you want to use like Redis. But in this uh, particular session, or basically particular tutorial, I'm going to show you guys the default one. So the first one that we're going to do is our session name, which we're going to call it our session name. This is our name. No, no, this should be name, session name. So up here, I'm going to create a environment variable, basically for process dot b. So inside here, our session name should be oops, should be as id, first our session name, and next is receive. Receive is basically is going to set uh, to true by default. Basically, what receive do is basically it forces session to be saved back to the session store, which right now we are using the default one is memory store. This is what receive do. So even this session never even modified. So basically, what receive do is basically forces session to be saved back into the session store, even the sessions never modified. So for login purposes, then we not for login purposes. I don't think it's basically it even said here. If you go to receive, forces session to be saved back to the session store, even if the session was ever modified during the request. Blah 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 blah, blah. The default value is 2, but using default has been depreciated. Blah blah blah. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's not here. But anyway, I'm going to set it to false. Forget to put your comma. False, since we don't want to keep receiving the session if it's not even modified, right? So we're going to change it to false. Next thing, we're going to have rolling, which is set to true. It's set to false by default, where what rolling do basically, uh, user will stay, not stay still, be logged in if they do not stay idle. Basically, if the user is still doing something on the system, then what rolling does, or basically going to do for the user, is going to keep the user able to use the system. If the user somehow idle for a set of time, which we're going to set the time after this, then if we just leave rolling set to false, then whenever we set that time to be any other time, so basically if you set that time to be 5 minutes, then if it doesn't matter if the user is idle or not idle, basically if they active or not active in the system, they the system going to time out after 5 minutes, and they need to log in again inside the system. But if we basically set the rolling back to true, then whenever the user active in the system, then the timeout session gonna basically refresh and re-update. If 5 minutes, within that 5 minutes, user did something on the system, anything in the system, then the 5 minutes is going to refresh again, going to be the next 5 minutes, something like that. So I'm gonna give like simple scenario or explanation. So but basically we're going to set our rolling going to be equal to true for now, and then our save um, save uni uninitialized. Save uninitialized, I want to set to false. Save uninitialized, let me forces a session that is uninitialized to be saved in the store, to the store. If it's uninitialized session, then we don't want it to be saved in the store. So basically, a session is uninitialized when it is new but not modified. Choosing false is useful for implementing login session. It's basically recommended for login session. That's what we're gonna do here. But anyhow, if you want to read more about how to about what is this all the save uninitialized, rolling, receive, you're able to read it in this espresso section. So save uninitialized, we're going to set it to false, and next we need to create our secret. Going to be session dot secret. Our session dot secret should be, we're going to put it here, session secret equal to, you can put any value in here. So basically this basically can be any combination of string you want. Next thing that we need to set our cookie, Q key. Go back to our expression. You go back up here. This is the only thing that you need to basically provide for your session: your secret, your receive, your save uninitialized, and also your name for your session, which basically what I'm providing. So this is a must option that you need to have in your system. But this one is basically optional for you to use. If you don't want to use it, then depends on you. You can uh, basically, it's going to be set by to false by default. So if you don't want to use it here, it depends on you. But for now, why don't I comment this first, just for the sake of showing you guys the difference between implementing this rolling right to true as opposed to false. But right now, I'm going to set it to by default to false. So we already have our secret. And next, our cookie. What inside the cookie that we need to put? So for the cookie, what we need to put inside of here is basically we can set cookie domain, basically a specific domain for the cookie to work. Cookie expires when, and also is it HTTP only, and also message, path, and also same site. So uh, some of it we're not going to use, but for most of it we're going to use. So cookie, we're going to set expiration time. We're going to use max age. So this is going to be session name is lifetime, and we're going to set same site equal to true, and or if you want you can go for strict question, but for now we're going to go for true, and we're going to use secure equal to in production, or basically in product. So basically max age, what max age does for our system, if you go back to our message, specify the number of in milliseconds to use when calculating expires the second, where we basically going to expire the cookie for the session. This is done by taking the current server time and adding message in millisecond to the value of calculated expiry date time. By default, no maximum age is set. So if both expire and message are set in the options, then the last one defined in the object is what is used. So basically, max age and expires basically do the same. So this one expire is basically a date object to be valued to expire set cookie attribute by default, not especially set, and most client will consider it a non-persistent cookie and will delete it on condition like exiting a web browser application. So note the same expire message are set in option, then the last one defined is the object. So what is used? So we're going to use message instead of expires. This one is in millisecond. So we're going to set our session lifetime. So for our session lifetime, for this system, uh, session lifetime, no, no session, yeah, let's call lifetime. Uh, just to show you how it works, the session how it works, it's going to create a cookie for the web browser. So I'm going to show you guys in how it's going to basically force this, not force, basically going to log out the user from the system. So we're going to use a small window, basically a lifetime. So 5 seconds. So we need to create the 5 second. Uh, constant gonna be 5 underscore seconds. Basically, 1000 is for millisecond, right? So times by 5 is gonna be 5 seconds. So this is gonna be 5 seconds for now. So after 5 seconds, basically user going to be log out from the system. And next, our same side equal to true. What uh so same side specify boolean or basically string to be value for the same side set cookie attribute. So if it's set to true, meaning that we'll set the same side attribute to strict or strict same side enforcement only. So if it's false, then we'll not set same side attribute. Basically, the cookie can be used to on other side also. If lacks, meaning that you can read it. If none, explicit cross site, basically able to use for cross site. If it's set for strict, so basically same side enforcement. So true and also strict, basically same thing. And next is secure in production. So basically secure specify the boolean value for secure set secure attribute when truthy the secure attribute is set, otherwise it is not. By default the secure attribute is not set. Basically what secure does is it's recommended option. However, it requires https enable website. For right now we are in the basically in production. So if we in production, we in local host we don't have any https. So what we can do, we can basically uh, check the node environment, or basically the system environment. So constant in production is equal to node underscore environment if you go to production. If it's ready for production. But right now, node environment gonna be set to development, something like that. So I think that's all for the session. But let's not forget, we already create under config, we have index.js also. So instead of this index.js, we're going to extract from session.js. So what we're going to say is constant. We're going to require from our config, our session. The thing that we're going to extract in here is what we export, our session option. So this one our session options, and we need to export it module module that ports equal to session options. Save and then go back to your index and your main index, basically your index or your server.js. So inside of here, you guys remember that I already set the session option over here. So what we need to do is require that index inside the config, inside the config. So basically this one gonna be this one should be we can name it a default environment that we need port. So constant, we're going to require, the not final, our starter folder config index that, and don't forget to specify what we're going to. Session session depreciated, provide secret. Okay, we have a problems here. So we already have a session secret right now. Let me see if I forget anything. Oh, should spell SE, not SA. Okay, I think it's working right now. Yeah, it's working. So we've done with our session also. Our session setup. Go back to our readme.md. We already set up our session. Then the next thing is to set up our auth route. We need to create our route register post, and we also need to create our login and our login get post route, and also our logout post route. So inside our starter folder, create a new folder, name it as routes. Inside route folder, we're going to create a new file named auth.js. Paste last. So inside our auth.js, what we're going to do, like always, we're going to do this first. Dependencies, copy, and then we're going to have routes. Last thing that we going to have is our auth. Let's say our auth route at spot. So for our dependencies, what we're going to use inside of here first is our express. So constant router equal to require express, not express section, but just express dot router. And then our, don't forget our model. So constant dot all equal to require our model all. Next thing is our hashing password, which is our bcrypt. So then bcrypt equal to require bcrypt.js, and that's all for now. So routes, the first route that we're going to create is our register post router. Our register post router. So router dot post. Basically, what we're going to have inside of here is register post router. We're going to have a login uh, get router. We also going to have login post router, and the last thing that we're going to have is our logout post router. So for our register, this one gonna be fairly simple. We're going to create our router dot post. I don't think that we need to create the page, basically the get one. So we're gonna name it as register, and inside is here we're going to have a sync of request and respond, which is going to take an arrow function. So inside of here you're going to have a let of request.body. Go to request body. We're going to have, first one is users email, and then users password, and also users first name, and don't forget also users last name. So this one gonna be email, gonna be password, gonna be, oh, not there, gonna be first name, and last one gonna be last name. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to check our email existence, and then what we're going to do next is basically so if exists, if the email does exist, then we're going to throw. And the second thing that we need to do is we're going to hash password. The third thing that we're going to do is we're going to create new user, and lastly we're going to save new user. So we're going to check email cons email is equal to await all dot, gonna find one by credentials dot email. Then we're going to pass this email. So why credential.email? If you look back to our older JS, we put it down under our credential. So credential.email. So if it exists, and so basically if email exists, then what we need to do is we're going to return res.json a message of email already exists, something like that. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to hash our password. So first, we're going to create our salt, which salt going to be creep, not minus. Wait, be creep dot, we're going to generate our salt. We're going to use 12. So constant hash password gonna be a wait again, bcrypt dot hash, which is going to take 2 arguments. The first one going to be our password from our request body and also our salt. So next, we're going to create that new user. So basically const user equal to new all. So instead of all, going to be credential. Side of here going to be email equal to email up above. Password going to be equal to hash password, comma. Also the profile. If you look back to our all profile name, so under this one is going to be name. Site name going to have first name, going to be our first name from our request body, and also last name going to be last name from our request dot body. So last thing, we're going to save new user, which we're going to encapsulate them inside our try and catch. So constant save and new user equal to wait dot user dot save, not dot wait user dot save. And next we're going to rest dot json. If you're going to send a message of user successfully save. If not, then what we're going to do is going to catch error, which we're going to reply or basically send a JSON of message unsuccessfully save new user, something like that. So why don't we try to run this register? So with that, we're going to use our Postman. Open Postman, because we didn't basically create our post our get register route, right? So let me open this. New, we're going to get post localhost. This should be 3000 slash auth slash register, right? But before that, what we need to do is basically export. We already export. No, we didn't yet export. So basically we need to export this first. So module dot export equal to router. We already export router, and we need to specify it in our index.js, our main index.js. So inside under route middleware. So under route middleware, basically we're going to declare our routes middleware use. Inside of here, we're going to take 2 things. This is going to be under auth route, which we're going to require our auth for starter, our routes, our auth. Yep. With that out of the way, then we can go to Postman. So go to body, choose raw, and choose JSON. So instead of here, we need to send, basically we need to send email, password, first name, also last name. So we're going to send email, in double quote. So email should be any email at gmail.com. Simple as that. And then, oh, sorry. And then password, we're going to put any password 123 for our first name. We're going to put Lalapolalaa. Our last name, we're going to put Newb. So when I hit send, basically going to reply us if it's no error occurred, user successfully saved, and we're able to see the saved user inside our MongoDB database, right? So hit send, yeah, user successfully saved. So basically, if we go back to our database and hit refresh, so inside our session auth second two, basically we're going to have two collection. You can just delete the session auth to collection, just drop it. We don't need that. We only need the all ones alls. So inside alls, we successfully save a new user, Lalapolalaa with credential of email, any email at gmail.com, and also the hash password of it. So we managed to create a new user basically. So next thing that we need to do is we're going to create a login get router. We're going to test this new user that we already saved in our system. So inside our login, let me see first. So our login router, we're going to get router of get, which inside of here, so also this one, I don't think, yeah, I don't think that we need to put sync. Okay, and then instead of here, we're going to send with backticks. So inside the backtick, we're going to create a simple HTML boilerplate. So login page h2, and this is going to be our p. This insert your credential, and below, and then lastly should be the form. So form, so inside of form, we're going to have action. Action should be our just auth, our login post router, and don't forget to put method as well. So method should be post. So inside form, what we're gonna have is our input. So the first one is gonna be type, which gonna be not text, should be email, and name should be email. Placeholder, gonna put placeholder of username, and lastly should be required. Copy this, copy, and then I just place it with double quote instead. No. Double quote, double copy this instead. Place this one. This should be password, a password, and it should be password. And the last thing that we need to have is button. I'm going to be type of submit and close it, login, open it, button, close it, hit save. So this is going to be our get login get router, our login page. So why don't we go and see our login page? The URL should be /auth, not slash, right? Just auth, /auth. So open your browser. So it should be this link. So if you go to localhost colon 3000/auth, then you're gonna have this what you see over here. Login page, insert your credential below, blah blah. So next thing that we need to create our login post router. Our login post router, what we're going to have inside of here is login post. So this is gonna be just slash go to a sync request res with the arrow functions of we're gonna have two things inside of here is our request.body. We're gonna have our email and our password, right? So this is gonna be email, our email and password inside of it. So the first thing that we're going to do inside of it, we're going to check mail existence. So if don't exist, say then we're gonna do error. And next thing that we're going to do is we're going to check password hashing. So basically we're going to try matching compare. Basically try matching and compare password. What did password with DB, the one in the DB. And then if basically if not match, then we're gonna throw error again. The third thing that we're gonna do is basically we're going to sign new session. We're going to assign new session info to user. And the last thing, we're going to redirect user to homepage. User to homepage. So whether we go first, we're going to check email existence. So basically our cons user equal to wait all dot find one. So this one should be the same. Credentials dot dot email should be email. So if user don't exist, then what we're going to do is we're going to return res.json message of user doesn't exist. Okay, my bad. We should use backticks, user doesn't exist. And then we're going to check the password. We're going to try to match it first. So constant valid password going to be equal to await bcrypt dot compare. We're going to compare our password that we receive from the request.body, the password, and also password that we get from our database. So user dot credentials dot password. And if the password does not match, or basically is not a valid password, then what we're going to do is we're going to return res dot JSON, return a message of password is incorrect. Password is incorrect. Something like that. Hit save. And then we're going to assign new session info to login user. So basically inside of here, we're going to call a function which going to take two things, our request and also our user ID. We're going to send these two things. And last thing we're going to, don't worry, I'm going to show you where I'm going to put this function away. So last thing we're going to redirect user. We're going to return res.redirect user back to the login page. No, the home page. So next, what we're going to do is going to address this function of login, which is going to take two arguments of request and also the ID of the user. So next thing that we have to do is basically create another file. Go inside your config folder, create a new file, name it as auth.js. So inside this config auth.js, what we're going to do first, we're going to basically create the login, right? So function basically sign new session info to login user. So the function should be function login, which take request and also the user ID. So instead of here, we're going to set session user ID to user underscore ID. So request.session dot user ID equal to user ID, and just that. And don't forget, we need to basically export this also module export. So we're going to export module the exports equal to login just like that. And then go back to your index under your config folder. So under here, we're going to do the same thing. That's why we create this index folder, just to make sure that everything be able to extract all from one place, right? All the JS. Then that's going to be constant dot equal to require from config on. So this should be login. And don't forget to log in. So inside our auth, under our routes folder, we need to import the, what we're going to call this now. Let me see first. What we need to do now is basically we're just going to call it as default env. So constant what we're going to do in here is basically require our config slash index. So we're going to have our login, right? So it's working right now. But for now, why don't we just see conf comment is, why don't we just rest.json for now. Welcome to home page, something like that. So go back to our browser. We should expect to see welcome to home page. If not, then we're going to see user doesn't exist or password is incorrect. So our email is anyemail.or@gmail.com and our password is password123. Hit enter. User doesn't exist. Anyemail@gmail.com. Okay, let me see first. Our email should be any email @gmail.com. I think any email @gmail.com. So 1, 2, 3. Any password. User doesn't exist. Okay, let me check. Users, credential, email. Okay, if not user, then user does not exist. Okay. Oh, let me just see this first. Console the log or request dot body, just to see what we are sending to them. Any password to 3. Email is any email@gmail.com. Password is any password. It's the same. Why it give me error? I edit this. Any email @gmail.com. Okay, let me try this again. Any password 123, use it as an exists. Let me check this first. Why is saying use it as an exists? I will come back to you guys again after I found the reasons why the system give me user as an exists. Okay, now I found the reasons why is basically giving us the error. So why don't we I'll try to run it again. So basically I already put the correct username and password basically, but it still give me use it as an exists. But basically we can go and instead of user just use email doesn't exist. And then the reason is why it doesn't exist. We already tried to console log and it give us email and also password, but you can see that you also have colon over here, right? So if we go to request the body to email, we should get the email, right? So why don't we try it again? Node.auth, any email, any password 123. It still give us email doesn't exist, and it give us undefined. The reason is if you go back to our login get route under our name, we accidentally put this colon over here. So remove that colon and basically just delete this, save and try to run it again. Any email, any password 123. Yep, we get welcome to home page. So we get welcome to home page right now. Did right? So we know that our post route is working right now. And if you check the cookie, uh, right now the cookie is not here because we only make it live for only 5 seconds, right? That's why it doesn't. So why don't I show you guys? So right now, if we try to basically get into our home page, or not right now. So why don't we create our home page first? So inside our route folder, we're going to create a new file called home.js. Hit enter. So inside our home.js, uh, we're going to do the same thing, and dependencies, and then we're going to have route, and the last thing that we're going to have is home, basically the home route spot. Where do we do this first? Module dot export equal to into export the router. So the first thing that we're going to have up here is going to be the same thing that we're going to have up here. Express these two, I think. These two for now. We're going to create our home route. We're going to have our home get route. Should be the only route that we're going to have in here. So router dot get going to be a sync of request and also respond, which is going to take an arrow function of. Let's see, why don't we just rest dot json something message like you are in the home page. Again, you have to put it in these backticks, something like that. And inside our post login post route, delete this, uncomment this, and then we're going to try it. So going to uncomment again. Go back here. Inside this, we're going to give any password 123. It should bring us to the home page. Cannot get. Why is it? Oh, okay, I forgot to do it all over again. So go back to your main index. So we need to set our home route also. So app.use. This one should be just home, and this is gonna be just slash. And then go back to your browser and try again. Yeah, you are in home page. Or basically, instead of going through the login page, we can just go directly to the home page. Yeah, it's not making any sense, right? So why don't we address that? We need to check whether the user already have basically already logged in or not. Or if they don't have the session yet, then they don't basically able to get into the homepage. But if they do have session already, create the session for them, then they can go inside the homepage. So how are we gonna do that? So why don't we go to our README first? So we're able to create register for our system. This is going to be addressed next week. And we already create our login post route. This not yet. For our setup home route, we already add this. Get home route, we already add this. But now why don't we need to address the verification to see to handle login user and also to handle guest user, basically logout user. So basically, once we do our verification, then any user that don't have session, they cannot get into the home page. Basically, they don't will not be able to be in the home page. Instead, they're going to be redirect to the login page. That's what gonna be we are going to do next. So we're going to set our verification first. So inside our system right now, we're going to create a new folder under inside our starter folder. We're going to get a new folder. Then we're going to name it as controllers. So inside controller folder, create a new file, name it as verification .js. .js. So inside our verification.js, this is going to be a simple verification. So first we're going to redirect not login user, and then we're also going to redirect already login user. And the last thing before we forget, we also need to module export. So module dot export. So this is going to be our these two function over here. So the first function we're going to redirect not login user base, basically a guess. So we're going to name it direct login, which going to take a request, rest, and also next. So instead of here, we're going to check if if the user don't have session, request.session dot user ID. We're going to check whether they have a session request ID. So if they don't, Then basically we're going to redirect to login page. So we're going to use res redirect, and do it right. So login page should be in auth, and then else it should be just next. We're going to continue on whatever the user or basically the guest are trying to do. And next thing, next function, we're going to redirect. Basically, this is the opposite. If the user already have a session, basically they already log in, then basically what we're going to do is we're going to redirect them to the home page instead of the login page. If else, then they will go do whatever they are doing right now. So next thing that we're going to do is basically spot these two, direct. Oh, it should be redirect home, home, redirect home. So these two we're going to bring to our auth. Name it as verification. So constant, not constant, should be require controller verification, redirect again, also redirect home. So if the user is not yet registered, basically they didn't yet become a user for the system, basically they are guests. So it's not so basically it's unlogical for them to basically, if the user already log in, then basically they don't have to go to the they don't we won't be we basically will deny them to go to this page, right? So basically to register as a new user. So this should be redirect to home. If you the user already registered, then we're going to redirect them to for login page also we're going to redirect them to home since they already inside. Login post also going to be redirect home, and also for logout should be different. So for our logout, the host router, this should be just uh, logout. For our logout, this should be redirect to login page, right? If the user able if your user want to log out, that means that that user already login, right? So basically if that user isn't already login, then they cannot basically log out, right? So if the user want to access post logout, that means that or that user already login. So basically we're going to use redirect login, which going to redirect any people that hasn't yet login to login page first. So this is going to be a sync request and also res. Request also res. We'll also take a arrow function, but right now we're going to leave it blank. So for our home.js, this is going to be the same as logout. So redirect. So before that, we need to import that first. So go up, copy this line, copy, then go to home, paste it, but we don't need the redirect home, right? We just need the redirect login. If the user didn't yet log in, then we're going to redirect them to the login page. So if we go back to our Chrome and we straight away go to our homepage, then we won't be able to go to our homepage since we didn't yet get inside the system. See? So next, what we're going to do, go back to our auth under route, and we're going to handle the logout. But before that, for our home, whether we create something, display something in our homepage. So instead of REST JSON message or homepage, what we're going to do is going to get user from the user information. So we're going to all dot find one. Now we're going to do find ID of which ID that we're going to use. So basically we're going to use the request session dot user ID. We're going to use the session ID. If you look back in our session, uh, or not here, in our auth, the other auth in our config. So in our config, we call this login, right? So whenever the user try to log in, then we're going to set, basically we're going to assign new session info to user, right? So that's why we call this function, which this function going to basically receive two arguments of request. Why request? Because we're going to get the session from the request. So that's why we need this request. Also, we the second argument should be the user ID. So inside of this, we create a function which is going to take those two arguments where we're going to place the user ID inside the request.session user name of user ID. So we're going to use that the same user ID inside the request section to find that user information inside the database. So if we able to find it, then what we're going to do is user. So data send should be let data equal to the email. We're going to send it back the user email. So user dot credentials dot email, and also we're going to send the name back to the home page. So user, we're going to use backticks for now. User dot credentials dot have first name, and we also gonna have our last name, right? So we're going to render home page. So res.send. So instead of here backticks, so this is going to be a simple home page. So h1 welcome to home page. I'll close back the h1. Next, we're going to have a div. Should be div. So inside the div, we're going to have 2p. This is our email. Should be our data email, and the second thing should be our name. The name maybe should be changed to name. And the last thing, we're going to have a form which is going to handle the logout button. So this is going to be action of auth logout, auth logout, do it right. Also method of post. So inside of here, we only have one thing, which is button. Spell it right. Button of logout, and the type should be equal to submit. Okay, simple as that. If there is any error happen, then we're gonna catch the error, of course. So error gonna be, we're gonna try to console log, or basically not console log, we're going to rest.json, right? We're going to give a message of error, send back the error. So that's going to be our home page. So why don't we try to see our home page? So in our login page, any email, any password 123. So okay, welcome to our home page and email. Our name is error. First name, last name. Oh no, it's not in credential. It should be on profiles. The name, right? It should be the same file. The name. Save. Any email, any password 123. Yep, Nodejs, any email. That's all. It's hit logout. Basically, it doesn't do anything now. That's why I give it as error in here. Error is not defined. Blah 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 blah. This is where router home.js 441. Wait, let me see first. Why does it give me this? I already defined the error over here. Or maybe I cannot do something like that. Let me see it first. This. Okay. That should works fine. So the next thing that we're going to need to address is our logout. So for our logout, what we're going to do is here we're going to handle user session destroy. We're going to destroy the session. So wait logout, which is going to take two things, request and also rest. So but before that, let us go to session. Instead of 5 seconds, why don't we create another one for 1 hour. So 1 hour. 1 hour should be 1000 milliseconds times with 60 seconds and times with another 60 for 60 minutes. Right? So that should be 1 hour. So instead of 5 seconds here, why don't I just put 1 hour, save. So if we go back here and I'll try to log in an email. Also this one is any password. Then it will bring us to the home page, which if you hit refresh, we are still in the home page since the cookies are still basically alive right now. So if you download this extension over here and install this extension, they're gonna give you the time which this cookie is going to be expired. Right now, my time is 18:33, but this is 1 hour from now. That's why it's 19, basically 7:33. Right now is 6:33, so this is 1 hour from now, which basically what we are looking right now. So after 1 hour, this session gonna be expired. If we refresh it again after 1 hour, then it's going to basically log us out from the system. To show how it works, if we change this back to, why not, before that, session is what makes the user able to log into the system. If somehow from the browser you delete these cookies over here, then basically the session is destroyed. So if the session is destroyed, then the user information is not there anymore. Then if the user try to refresh the page, then basically it's gonna uh, redirect the user back to the home, the login page, since the cookies is there no more. So if we hit refresh, there's no cookies. Since there's no cookie anymore, then that's why I hit refresh. It bring us back to the login page. If you want to know what this extension R is, so what do I show you? In extension, the name of this extension is edit this cookie without S. Just edit this cookie, not cookies, cookie. Just enable them in your browser extension for Chrome browser. I don't know any browser that have that and this extension over here. So why don't if I show you the 5 minute or 5 second one? So if 5 second, if I apply the 5 second, basically if I log into the system, after 5 second, the cookie going to be expired. So if you refresh the page after 5 seconds, it's going to basically redirect you back to the login page since the system destroy the session after 5 seconds because the cookie only alive for 5 seconds. So let's say I log in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, I hit the refresh button each second in 1 second interval. After 5 seconds, I click on the refresh button. It bring us back to the login page. The reason is our max age that we set over here is equal to the 5 second. So that brings us to the next things that we need to do. But before that, let me address the if we go back to our README, we already create the logout post route. Yeah. Uh, but we also already addressed this verification for handle logout and login user. But we didn't yet finish settle our logout function, right? So for our logout function, we're going to do the same thing from our login. So basically, we're going to extract our logout from here and go back to our another auth. We have assigned new session info to login user, right? So function, this function, we're going to copy, paste it down here, which in this function, what we're going to do, we're going to handle session and destroy on logout. So this should be logout with capital O, which going to take request and also rest. We look at back, we send request and rest, save, delete this. We're going to destroy user session. How we do that? We're going to request session dot destroy, which going to take a function. If you look back in Espresso session documentation, you can see, you can know how to destroy the session. You put down. This is how we destroy a session, which going to ask for a callback. So that's what I'll be doing right now. Arrow function, which if there is error, and then basically we're going to return to home page. If the user cannot log out, then we just going to return them to the home page. So if basically error, then what we're going to do, we're going to return, basically redirect them back to the redirect, press the redirect, no, to the home page. So if there is no error, then we're going to clear out user cookie. So the way to clear out is basically called rest.clear cookie, and we also need the session name, and then we're going to return to login page. So basically we're going to redirect them back to the login page after they successfully log out, right? So redirect back to login page, which is /auth. But we need this session.name, where session.name is inside its session, right? Session.name. So we need to export that session.name, session underscore name. In order for us to access that, we need to export them. Okay, session.name. Inside our index config, we also need to export our session name. This should be session name, and don't forget our logout also. Logout, and see our auth. We need to export our logout in order for us to use it. Logout. Login also logout. Why? Logout, session name, and logout. Save. And back to our auth. We already called the logout. Okay, done. But we didn't yet. No. In our auth, we need to import our session name inside of here also. So what we're going to do up here, we're going to basically declare dependencies which we're going to need. And that's going to be our default. If I can spell it right, default E and V constant, which gonna be in require. It should be in config. Should be in config session. And what we need from that is session.name. Save. So we're able to use it. So to try that, we're going to go back to our session. So instead of 5 seconds, we're going to try 1 hour. 5 seconds is not enough time for us to see the logout functionality. So basically inside this, any email. We're going to any password want to be get inside. So if we go back and look for this cookie, 1 hour from now it's 7:43. Right now it's 6:43. So 1 hour from now it's 7:43. Then this cookie going to be expired. So if I click on this logout button, so basically I will uh, destroy the users and the current user session, and also destroy the cookie. If I hit this, it's going to bring us back to the login page. There's no error occur. Okay. If we check this cookie back, there's no cookie over here. So that's working right now. Go back to our README. So we're able to create uh, everything except this one gonna be. Should I show you how to do this one? Yeah, I think so. So handle false logout. So the next thing that basically the system already works just fine right now. So if you follow along, so basically if you follow my tutorial on the previous video, which about token-based authentication, where we basically uh, where in token basically work kind of same like session, where token also have a lifetime. If we put, doesn't matter uh, how many hours we put, we can put second, we can put a day or hours, depend on minutes. And also session work just like that. Token and also session, they both have expiration time if you want to put the expiration time. So and for token, we also in the previous video, in previous tutorial, we also provide a page, or basically a page where if the session or basically the token already expired, then we provide a page for allowing them to want to continue or they want to log out. But for our tutorial right now for the session base, we're going to do something a little bit different. So right now, if I go back to our inside our homepage, so basically login as a user, we know for sure that our cookie is going to be alive for 1 hour, right? So it doesn't matter if you are active or not active, or basically if you are idle or not idle right now in the system. If I do something in the system right now, it's still the system going is still going to log me out after 1 hour after the cookie expired. So it's going to uh, delete and declare. It's going to expire the cookie and also going to destroy the session for us. So we're going to basically kick back to login page. So the example that I'm able to show you guys is with uh, 5 seconds. So let me show the 5 second, right? So after for the 5 second, if I go back, if I try to refresh the page, I refresh. After 5 seconds, it's going to kick me out from the system. See, it's already kicked me out from the system after 5 seconds. If even if I'm very active in the homepage, basically I'm not idle in the homepage. So in order to allow the user to basically if they are active in the system, we want to make them stay in the system. Basically, we're going to every time user did something within the session lifetime. So basically, the max age within the max age session lifetime, basically the max age. So if we set the max age to be 1 hour, if the user did something within that 1 hour, so let's say after user log in the system and then they have been given 1 hour to do anything inside the system. So let's say if the user did something within that 1 hour, so this 1 hour, so basically this max age, we're going to refresh that max age according to the latest thing, so the latest active thing that the user did on the system. So basically, the user going to keep we're going to keep the user in the system as long as the user did something within that expiration time, within that max age or that 1 hour window. If the user idle for that 1 hour, then after that 1 hour, we're going to kick the user back to the login page. So to enable that, that's why we need to uh, change our rolling to true. If you look back, rolling is set to false by default. So basically, user will still be logged in if they do not stay idle in the system. That's what rolling did for us. So basically, if you go back to uh, the documentation, you can see that force the session identifier cookie to be set on every response. So basically, if the user did anything in the system, in the home page, so basically it's going to force the session identifier to a cookie to be set again and again for every response that the user did on the home page. So the expiration is reset to the original max age. That's what I mean. So every time I hit refresh on the system, basically I respond to the system if I already log in. So basically it's going to reset the max age back to its original countdown. So that's what rolling does. So basically if you mm, so why don't I give you a line, so explanation, a simple explanation. So basically max age will be updated or basically refresh or reset every time the user does something within the active lifetime of the cookies, if the rolling is set to be true. If not, then basically the message will stay the same if the user is idle within the active lifetime of cookie. This is what rolling do. If the user idle within that active lifetime, basically within the max age of 1 hour, then after that 1 hour, we're going to kick user out of the system and then going to redirect them to the home page. No, the login page. If the user did something on the system, that anything on the system after their login within the max age, the session lifetime, then basically we're going to reset the max age every time user did something on the system. So that's what rolling do. So basically, why don't I give you an example first? If I let this rolling to be set by default to false, basically, uh, even if I don't, if I do something on the system, it will not basically reset my message. My message is going to be 1 hour, even though I already did something on the system. Why don't I just right now is set to 5 seconds, right? Why don't I just set to 5 seconds? If I go back to my home page, actually there is a way for me to reset manually the max age of the our request or session. So if I do basically manually reset the max age of the session cookie. So right now we are trying to basically set our. So we're going to set our session dot max age. No, cookie dot max age equal to, we're going to set it, right now it's 5 seconds. We're going to try to reset it to 1 hour. Let's see whether it's working or not. This is how we basically we able to uh, reset the max age to be 1 hour. So let's see whether this working or not. If we set the rolling to be false by default. So this one, I put this line of code in the home page. So basically, if we refresh the home page, basically going to set our max age to be 1 hour. So go back to our Chrome. So basically, if we look in our cookie session, it shouldn't be 5 seconds from the time right now. It should be 1 hour from the time right now. If I click the refresh button on the home page. So why don't I get inside any password 123 inside home page and now 5 seconds. Why do I refresh? It should be 1 hour from now, but it's not working. Our session is still, our cookie is still destroyed. Our session is still destroyed. The reason is because even if you want to manually set the cookie max age, it will not work if you basically not enable this rolling to be true. If you enable this rolling to be true, then it will work. So basically, in order for you to basically tempered with the cookie max age, you need to enable this rolling to be true instead of false by default. So right now, if I try to run this code again, if I run any password 123, if I get inside the system and hit refresh once, if we look back in our cookie, instead of 5 seconds from now, it's already 1 hour from now. You can't see that. Okay, let me try to do it. Why don't we give it more time? What if we go to our session back? So instead of 5 seconds, we're going to try for we're going to try for not 1 hour. We're going to try for maybe okay, this one is this one is 1 minute. No. Why don't we try for 30? And then we try for half an hour. So right now it's not 5 seconds, it's half an hour. Or basically we can do something like, instead of changing that, why don't we go and try 1 hour divided by 2, should be half an hour. So right now by default it should be half an hour. Right now it's 6:57. Half an hour from now it should be 7:20 something, right? 23, something like that. So why don't we try to add email, any password. If we look back in our cookie, half an hour from now is 1 hour from now is 7:57. This is 1 hour from now. No. Let me check. No. Let me check back. Did something wrong here. 1 hour divided by 2. This one I'm gonna do instead of 1 hour. I'm gonna try to do for 2 hours. Two. Oh no. I should not have done that. So instead of doing it here, I think in order to show you the best way, if we like right away do this, then it will negate our session of 1 hour over here, right? A half an hour over there. That's why it will basically uh, set this to 1 hour. So the right way for me to do this is basically I'm going to create a form which going to address at time method post. We're going to try to see in add time. So this one we're going to create a router for add time to message. So router dot post. So instead of view, we're going to add time. This should be redirect to login if user doesn't log in yet, and there should be a sync request and rest arrow function. And inside of here, what we're going to do is just manually reset. Instead of putting it there, we're going to manually reset, and then we're going to redirect them back to the home page. Rest or redirect to home page. So rest or redirect to the home page. Save. So basically what we are going to do here, if the user click add time button, so instead of our cookie expired after half an hour, it's going to be expired after 1 hour. So let's try that now. So now is 7:1 p.m. So if I log in now, so basically our cookie going to be expired 7:31 p.m. right? So any password 123. So we check our cookie. Yeah, it's going to be expired 7:31 p.m. But if I click this add button, instead of 7:31, it's going to be 8:1 p.m. So add time fresh. Yeah, it should be changed to 8:1 p.m. right now. This will be enabled. So basically, it will work if you set our session to have rolling to be set to be true. So if I comment this, basically I'm going to set this to false by default. If I try to do the same thing, let's see if I log out, any email, any password 123. If we look to our cookie right now, it's 7:32. This is half an hour from 7:02 p.m. right now. Okay, if I click on add time, it should be 8:32, right? So since I click once, but since our rolling is not set to be true, it's not going to change our max age, our expiration time. It's still going to stay at 7:32. So that's why if you want to basically allow users, allow active user to stay in the system, you need to allow this rolling option or change this rolling option to be true. So basically, if the user did something on the system, then the cookie will be basically will update itself every time user did something. So basically, let's say I hit logout right now. Let's say I go for any email, then any password 123. So right now, if you see, right now it should be expired half an hour from now is 7:33, right? So what if I wait? Right now it is 7:33 and 18 seconds. So basically, this is the time it should be expired. So since we already basically changed the rolling to be to set to true, so every time the user did something on the system, it will reset back this half an hour countdown. So basically, if even if I don't hit at time, I just hit refresh once, it should change the expiration time again. See, it changed 1 minute. Just before is 7:33 18 second, right? Right now it's already 7:34. It basically reset the cookie max age again. So if I hit again refresh, the cookie is going to change again. The 22 seconds, I hit refresh again. 29 seconds. That's how rolling works. Basically, if the user active in the system is not idle, then the user going to be kept on the system. The max is going to be reset every time the user did something within the lifetime of the cookie. So that's how session we uh, able to let the user stay logged in the system if they are active in the system. But what if we want to basically force log out the user? At some point, we want to force log out the user. It doesn't matter right now. Even if we set the cookie, basically the session we set to be half an hour from now. If the user keep on active within this session lifetime, then basically the user will not be logged out anytime soon, right? So what if we want to make sure the user going to be log out after a certain amount of time? Let's say we want to make sure that they log out after 5 hours of uh, after 5 hours, whether they are active or not active in the system. So that's going to be our next go-to thing that we're going to do. So this one we already addressed that. So the last thing that we're going to address is handle force logout. So doesn't matter if the user is idle or not idle, we're going to force them to log out from the system. So we know for sure that if we unable this rolling, or basically we uh, change to false, or by default it's going to be false. If we uncomment this, basically it doesn't matter if it's idle or not idle, the user to be forced logout. But that's not going to be flexible. So to be flexible, we're going to create another function to handle that kind of activities. So how are we going to do that? So that's going to be very easy actually. So uh, go back to your index, your main index. We're going to create a global middleware where we're going to address basically we're going to track whether the user is uh, active or not, active or not. We're going to track whether the user is active or not. So basically we're going to app.use, and we're going to check whether the user is active. So this is going to be a function which I'm going to show you guys where I'm going to create it. So this function, we're going to get that from this. So how do we declare that is active over here right away, and go to your next index in your config folder. So is active, I'm going to extract it from here, is active, is active, So go to your auth inside your config folder. Go to your auth inside your config folder. If you remember, we have a login and also logout to handle the session destroy of logout and also to handle assign new session to login user. So the last thing that we're going to do is basically we're going to check if a user is active or not, right? So we're going to create an async function. It's going to be async function of is async function is active, which is going to take request, respond, and also next. And inside here, we're going to check check if a user is login. Basically, user already logged in or not. So we're going to go if is login request. We go to true. So whenever we create this first function is login, and check if user login. So this is going to be a function. Function is login, which going to take request. We're going to check whether this user have session or not. Right? So session dot user ID. If not, we're going to if the user already login, so basically we're going to return true. True. Else we're going to return false. Simple as that. So this one. So why not just spread this one active that this one if user already login. So basically what we're gonna do if first we're gonna if there's error then we're going to throw error. Throw error. So if there's error, then basically we're going to return res dot no, not that. If we able if the user already log in, so we're gonna get timestamp now. We're going to try to get this timestamp of now. So constant of now equal to date dot now, and we're going to get timestamp before the one created once a user login. So basically it's going to be constant created at which we going to extract from request dot session. So if you remember in our index in our auth.js, once user login, we call this login function. So inside of the login function, we only create user ID inside requisition. But since we're going to track when the user actually login, So we're going to set a new thing. We're going to set a new date. So set session created at, basically to track, basically to track absolute timeout. So this is going to be request dot session dot created at equal to date dot now. Save. And then what we're gonna do, we get it if the user already log in, and then we're gonna get the timestamp for now, and then we're going to get the timestamp from the request session on when the user log in to the system. What left to do, we're going to check if a user already seat or active, or basically none. Doesn't matter whether they are active or non-active time in the system. For example, I can say that, for example, if the time when user for example, if let's say the user login at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. right? So if the user time, the created at time is 10 a.m., then if the user already login after 10 a.m. So if no, let's say the time right now, is 10 a.m. And if the time right now is 10 a.m., it's more than the time created at the time the user login. Let's say the user login as 8 a.m. Plus 4 hours, let's say, plus 4 hours of using the system. So basically, what we need to do is basically then the user should be forced to log out, if that makes any sense to you. So if now, if now it's more than the time where the date is created at, plus the system absolute timeout, which we're going to address later, then we're going to log out the user. So we're going to return wait, and we're going to call the function above logout with request also rest. See, we're going to call the logout button over here. So the session absolute timeout, we're going to place them inside our session over here. So check node, then also we're going to introduce new absolute timeout to force or user to log out after maybe 5 hours of using the system. So we're going to create constant session absolute timeout equal to we're going to take the 1 hour times with 5, the 5 hours. Then we're going to extract them also absolute timeout equal to session. So absolute timeout. Save. Go back to our auth. Then this should be part our session absolute timeout. So basically, instead of following our max age, our session lifetime over here, what we actually going to check, we're going to check if the user log in first. If the user is logged in, is basically is equal to true, then we're going to get the time where it is right now, and we're also going to get the time where the user actually log in. So if the time right now is more than the time user already log in plus with the the basically the window that we want to force the user to log out, which is 5 hours. So doesn't matter whether the user is active or not active within that 5 hours after the user log in, then we going to force the user to log out from the system. So that's why if the time now is more than the time where the user login plus the time that we give them the absolute timeout, and we're going to lock the user out of the system. So basically, with this function over here, we're going to uh, keep track. We're basically going to keep track. Let me see. We're basically going to keep track the user session. Basically, we're going to keep track how basically how long the user stay on the system. Once the user login, then we're going to keep track the user timestamp their session of created ad, right? And then we're going to keep track every time, since this function is called in our index, in our main index as a global middleware. So it is going to be run every time, anytime, uh, actually all the time when the system is active, the user inside the system. So we're going to check this. So that's why we're able to run this over here. This function is basically check whether the user is active or not. Doesn't matter if the user active or not, we still going to basically force log out the user from the system after 5 hours. This is the function that handle that kind of thing. So if the user is not login, then we have to make sure that we call next, or basically we're going to allow the guest to do whatever they want to do in the system, or the user or the login user. So with that out of the way, I think we already complete. Check back the destroy the session first. Okay, we got some error with user cannot read the property of user undefined. Config auth .js. Okay, let me see. Request function. This one should be outside. My bad. One should be outside. Save. Now it should work just fine. Okay. So any email, any password, 1, 2, 3. Inside of here, if you look this cookie right now, half an hour from now is half an hour from 7:23 is 7:53. If I refresh the page, it's going to refresh again this rolling over here. Let's see. Let's see whether rolling is set to true. Yeah. If I click add time, it's going to add another half an hour. So basically 1 hour from now. Home page. Wait, let me see first. If I go to our README, so we already handle post logout for now. So I think that's complete everything for our session-based authentication. One last try. Session. We're going to go for 5 seconds over here. Save email. Any password 1, 2, 3. At time. Then it should be 1 hour from now. Okay, that works. If I add time again, then it should be still 1 hour from this time 7:25. That's why still stay. If I log out, then it should be log out from the system. So everything worked just fine. Go back to README. So we already addressed all of it except validation, which I'm going to address them uh, next week on our YouTube tutorial how to do validation on the authentication process to add another security layer. So basically, that's all for today, guys. That's how you basically able to implement session-based authentication for your system. So if you guys don't if you guys don't yet see the token-based authentication one from the uh, previous uh, previous YouTube video, you can go to see that one. So if you go back to my repositories, basically I already show you guys how to uh, handle simple token-based authentication with JWT, JSON Web Token. But for today, I'm able to show you guys how to basically implement the session-based authentication, the default implementation of session-based authentication using memory store. Maybe next time I'm going to show you guys how to basically implement session-based storage using session store of Redis. This one with Redis instead of using the default memory store. But anyhow, that's all for today. That's all for this sharing session or tutorial of how to implement session-based authentication. I hope you're able to implement this simple session-based authentication to your system anywhere you like. If you want to basically tweak a little bit of this code that we do together in the session, then it's up to you. If you want to basically tweak uh, you want to enable user to stay on the system much longer than 5 hours, then you just change it to any hours that you want, maybe days or the depends on you. Uh, if you want to change the lifetime of the cookies, it depends on you. Anyhow, that's how you basically implement the session-based authentication to your system. Like always, thanks for being here. Until next time, or basically until next week. Ciao, salam guys.